Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 24, another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So as ever, if you do want any consultancy, AI stuff or any workshops, then find me on LinkedIn, it's what I do. I say that every week. RoboFood is the first thing we're going to talk about, and these are edible robots. So there are people out there trying to make robots edible. Why would you want to do this? That's a very good question. Some examples here. So reduce waste, obviously. The example they gave was, wouldn't it be amazing if a drone could deliver your pizza and then you could eat the drone as dessert, obviously. Deliver vaccines into the body as well. Not quite sure. So maybe they're just edible, as in you don't have to actually put them in there, but they're digestible by the body. And also to produce novel gastronomic experiences. So really what they're doing is they're using stuff like gelatin and citric acid, and they've made a battery, for instance, that can actually generate, it can light an LED for a couple of hours, and then you can eat the battery whole because it hasn't got enough voltage in it to really do much damage. But they use all these things that you're seeing here, wax and pectin and all sorts of goop and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting. In the future, you might be able to have kind of interesting meal made of robotic stuff that jumps into your mouth, pings around like popping candy, and then you swallow it. So there you go. So I assume that's what they mean by novel experiences. Bad Boys 4. This camera rig did the rounds, lots on social, hence why it's vertical. However, did some digging, and it turns out it's a snorri cam rig, and it's a snorri cam rig with a Sputnik mount. All the words you didn't think you'd hear today. So the snorri cam rig by the Snorri brothers, there's a really good backstory behind why they invented this thing in the first place, but I won't bore you with that now. But this has been out for a while, and as you can see, it's a counterbalanced camera rig, and there you go. So that's how Will Smith is doing that to get this first-person view that will obviously be in Bad Boys 4. Should you be into that, look out for that. It's quite interesting. Apple Intelligence, not AI, obviously, because Apple don't do that sort of thing. They do spatial computing. They don't do VR, for instance. So they've always got their own thing for it. However, they announced finally that they're getting into the AI game, and it's going to be infused into your devices. Currently needs to be quite an expensive device, an iPhone 15 Pro, for instance. That's the really expensive one, out of my range. And also, if you've got a silicon Mac, an M1 and M2 chip, then it will be available for that as well. Now, it does all the things you'd expect, generates images, it generates terrible emojis, like Apple is still desperate for us to use emojis. However, maybe it will make Siri not suck as well, which I think will be interesting. It does summarization, which I think is great. The TLDR, too long didn't read. And it can generate images, and you just basically say, look, I'd like this, this, and this all smushed into my image, and it will generate the images for you. It does this really cool thing as well, where it's at a system level, so you give it access to your device, essentially, and it can then say, I've seen a flight coming in, I've seen an email from your mum, so do you want to go and get a cab to go and pick up your mum from the airport, that sort of thing. So it makes connections, it can prioritize messages and all sorts of stuff. It can also hop out if it can't do stuff on the device or in the cloud that it's allowed to do it in securely. It can actually ask you whether you want to go out to ChatGPT and do all those other things. So seemingly they've thought of a whole bunch of things. We'll see. It'll probably be on my Mac because I don't have a smartphone good enough to do this, but there you go, Apple Intelligence. Really interesting from Toyota. So this is what if you got robots to drive cars rather than just trying to make an automated car. So I thought that was quite interesting. There's a lot of work going on in robotics right now to have personal robots, and you can just take your personal robot with you and it'll drive the car for you. So I thought it was good. A novel approach to a novel thing. And as you can see, it can steer, it can use the handbrake, it can turn the indicators and press on the accelerator. The videos that are in here are horribly sped up as well. So when you actually see it actually working, it's really, really slow, which is probably good for now because it doesn't run people over. But it's got a long way to go, but I thought it was a really interesting, novel approach. I didn't really think of getting robots to drive actual cars. Very much iRobot style. There you go, like that. Quantum random number generators. So random numbers, if you're a coder, for instance, you might know this already, but for most other people, random numbers are really difficult to generate. Way back in the day, they used things like lava lamps and cameras to generally sort of figure out what a random thing was. Computers are notoriously bad at random numbers, even though you think they're probably brilliant at them. So quantum mechanics is where you can come in, because things have a lot of states all at the same sort of time. If you can do that on a chip, that would be amazing, because you can then stick it in a device and you don't need a ginormous quantum computer, which is what Toshiba have now done. They've created this tiny little chip, which is a couple of millimeters across, that can actually do that quantum number generator on a device, which is amazing. So if you've got things like cryptography or communications or security, security, then this is then made that a lot more secure because it's on device. Also, the Australian National University, thank you very much for your quantum computer as well. So if you do want a genuinely random number, go to the ANU and they have the Krung generator, and you can see you can create your random colors with RGB values, hex values, pixels, audio, whatever you want to do. You can roll the dice randomly using a quantum computer on their website for free. So thank you for doing that. That's amazing. And well done, Toshiba. Nice. Transferscope, nice device, nice thing. Well done, Christopher, for doing this one. Link down below if you want to go and see the web page. And it's basically a Raspberry Pi in a device with a camera using AI. You point it at something, you capture its style, you then point it at another thing and it transfers the style to it. So it's doing a bunch of stuff on the device in the Raspberry Pi. It's doing the capturing, it's doing the outlining live. And then when that little pause happens, it's so when it's going out and it's then doing the style transfer on another server and transferring it to the device, I believe. So there you go. So that's quite neat. And it just is playful. It shows you how maybe you can start using these sorts of things in the real world just to get up a bit of creative inspiration and or mischief. Like that one, the Transferscope. Have a go and play. And finally, we have Stable Diffusion 3. So, sorry if you're eating and you've seen this and you've just barfed a little bit, but there was a really interesting thread on Reddit, and I've put the link below. You can go and have a look at it yourself. And they found the latest version of Stable Diffusion 3 has a problem with a bunch of things. One of them just randomly is woman lying on grass. And also it works for man lying on grass as well. But the thread was like, hang on, this is a little bit weird. Why is that? And is it because of censorship has then caused these kind of if this then that to get in the way of the diffusion model, I guess, for making this sort of thing? But lots of people then went away and tried to generate it. You have to, with Stable Diffusion 3, you have to use an API to do this. So I went in and I generated a bunch of images as well. Brilliantly, I then used all the cranky images to train another AI to guarantee I got really cranky images as well. So it goes pretty deep. But there you go. It's really interesting. Now, why is this happening? As I say, it might be the fact that this is the latest version and we're trying to stop it generating dodgy things. And in doing so, we're accidentally making it generate these weird things as well. So there you go. So the latest version of AI and image generators may not be as good as you think it is. There's also a couple of other movie generators that I've used this week as well. Dream Machine, by the way, by Luma Labs. And I got some really terrible results from that as well. So AI is possibly not going as fast as you think and as well as you think right now. So there's a little bit of a pause for a breath to go, actually, we might survive this. There you go. Anyway, hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. If it was, share it with somebody amazing, and I will see you next week.